what we need. Who won't please feed? We're very, very tall, we're very not seen, we're very, very strong indeed.
Why are we still not making significant progress after all that time? And the other is that learning disability is still seen as not quite being there somehow. And I would like us all in this afternoon to have a really honest, open debate about some of the things that will help us move forward very quickly, as opposed to make slow, steady progress. So that we can learn from each other, talk to each other, and do that within a spirit of what I like to call ruthless honesty. This is a creative, it's an inspiration issue. It's about how can we do things that move the arts forward, not move the inclusion agenda forward. That's the frame. Some of you have come from companies, some of you are here as programmers and promoters, some of you I hope are here because you're just really interested in what's going on. But it's about that debate about how do we move into the wider world.
I didn't want to be seen for my diagnosis. That was my biggest fear with creating work. I wanted my work to be seen for its quality rather than for the fact that I had autism. So it's things like that. It's that sort of honesty that we need from everyone to be able to open up the discussion.
And so that we need to be aware that as a group of people we're offering something which the sector wants and needs, and that to sort of circle back to your original point about theatre for people with learning disabilities or by people with learning disabilities, that is probably the biggest stumbling block, because people see that as being something other than just theatre. And one of the problems of being a group of people who come back together like this is whether we're engaging with the artistic directors who are not in the room, because they're the ones that can really make the difference for us. And I appreciate that that's a big issue, but it probably is the biggest issue.
We can take colleagues with us to see this work so that people experience it firsthand and then have a knowledge base of their own, rather than necessarily always feeling like we have to be the messengers, I think, in that way.
And I think for me it's about how we collectively can make sure that those other artistic directors are seeing work of that outstanding quality, because I think they've only got to see it to actually begin to shift their opinions.
As someone who works with people of with all sorts of diagnoses and conditions, I think some of the portals to apply are just absolutely, without the support of Richard and my creative enablers, I don't think that we could have gone and applied for the funding. And it's not about the confidence, because as you can see I'm here talking to you all today, but it's about having the opportunity and having having the process explained of how to actually apply for things.
Do we work within existing structures and existing forms, or do we actually say, no, those forms have got to be changed in order to enable better things to happen?
Working with myself as a producer who works across dance, I had never worked with a company of people with learning disabilities before, so I brought maybe new approaches and maybe a different kind of confidence and a different kind of way of approaching venues, which might have been different to how a company might have done it in the past.
And I think it's incumbent upon us to actually say we have to do that extra work to go out and also to have those conversations. And for example, is there support that is needed to get this work into spaces where they should be? So I think a mixture of what everybody said, but especially being very mindful of not just saying, oh, we're opening our doors, but having the kind of, it's incumbent upon us to go out and do the work, and not just kind of invite passively. It's active.
Yes. Just picking up a couple of things there. One is that idea of collaboration and co-production, that we don't work in isolation, we work with other people, as being a really important way of connecting with the wider world.
I think we need to start saying, look, our work is great, but we've also got to pay our actors what is actually our right. We're not getting paid what we should be paid because people are scared.
Working directly with venues, I think, is the answer. And we've got the answers from that, but actually research is only one thing, it's what you then do with it that really counts. What we're doing is we are finding ways of working with a number of those venues, so that actually the ownership of the development of how we actually can start to programme more inclusively is shared between us. And I think that's not.
It's got to be a partnership. It can't just be a theatre company doing all the work and theatre not doing any, or the other way around. It's got to be definitely a partnership.
The approach that I would take with any of the companies I work with in terms of tour booking, so being very clear about what we're trying to achieve, what the show is. We also like to work very much in partnership with our venues rather than just kind of flying in for a one-night gig and out. Some venues do just want a one-night gig and some want kind of a whole package, and that's great. We're very careful about the promotional materials that we put out there because we want them to reflect the quality of the work. So, for example, signing off really great images is really important to us. How we write about the work is very important to us. We go through lots of proofreading processes, don't we? Great print, getting together as high quality film material as is possible on the budget. And then, we're very careful about how we talk about the company to venues. And then I guess we try and target venues who are relevant, both in terms of this being a company of people who have learning disabilities, but also of this being dance theatre work. So we target venues that are suitable in size and that will have the kinds of audiences that we know we usually get to.
My perception of this work is that within learning disability we have had to do everything because people with learning disabilities have been excluded from so much in our society, so we have to do everything. We have to do participatory work, we have to train people as actors, we have to work out how to get people to do professional shows and all of that. And therefore we are a little bit confused sometimes about which bit we sit in when we're doing a particular piece of work.
If you're doing participatory work, it can be done with a professional. It doesn't have to be one thing or the other. And I think over the years, this kind of work, it's easier for people to just think of it as one thing. And so it is really important to have some clarity about what work you're talking to a promoter about. So it's very much about doing things in some ways in the way the sector works already, but being very clear about what it is that you need the sector to do to embrace what you're presenting to them, because there are changes that we need to make.
How do you encourage an audience to see a piece of radical new work as opposed to something very mainstream that they know and is safe? So I think some of those things are consistent of how do we bring an audience to the work, how can we do that? People who maybe don't share that passion for adventure and new work experience one piece of work which is by its nature at the forefront of change of the work that our audiences will experience, whoever we are as a venue, and then suddenly if that piece isn't the best piece they've seen, doesn't somehow quite measure up to what they wanted, that suddenly they shelve the whole movement. So that's the fear, I think, around that.
Just the fact that a lot of people don't know what they're allowed to play and what they're not allowed to play at the moment. There is just to briefly explain, if a learning disabled actor gets paid full equity rate, they could endanger the benefits that they receive.
How do we all come together to challenge and advocate together more strategically?
The main thing that we discussed was how we actually label the work and at what point and to who do you say you're inclusive. And if you decide to remove that from your print or marketing because the work should speak for itself, what education do you need to provide to venues in order for audiences and artists to be prepared?
So we looked quite a lot about how it looks different to develop an audience with disabilities and what it looks like to develop that without, and that they're two quite different things. We looked at creating a package, which was mentioned at the panel, and different things we can do to really help audiences get in, including food.
We also explored the fact that the more specific we are about our work and speaking about what precisely we're trying to achieve, the more that specificity helps us alleviate fear, because we can understand the differences between the different partners around the table, and perhaps that helps us open the dialogue. We also spoke about practical fears of a performer entering new territory, new venues, and the need for venues to pay attention to how they perhaps do, I think we call them orientation days, for people with learning disability to come and visit.
The fear of the critique. So how we talk about quality and have dialogue between programmers and companies and producers, and how we can do that in a constructive way. And one of the conclusions that we came up with was perhaps, if you're inviting people into rehearsals or to see a preview show, to give them a framework of questions by which they could report back to you their feelings about the work, importance of partnerships, and how working in partnership helps evidence the quality of your work to a funder like ACE or to a programmer.
Think about something that you personally can do to help us move this fight forward, and I'd like you to write it on your rosette, please.
And when you make your pledge, be mindful, we will be holding you to it. And in 6 months' time, you may see yourself popping up with your pledge, and we will be asking you, have you stuck to that?